Welcome to Wisdom Files, where we explore history's most fascinating mysteries and untangle the threads of our shared past. If you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button and liking this video to support our deep dives into religious history. Today, we're examining one of history's most enigmatic figures, Pontius Pilate, the Roman official who ordered Jesus' crucifixion. While his role in that pivotal moment is infamous, what happened to Pilate afterward remains shrouded in mystery. Before we explore his death, let's quickly establish who Pontius Pilate actually was. From around 26 to 36 CE, Pilate served as the Roman prefect of Judea, a position appointed by Emperor Tiberius. As prefect, he was essentially Rome's representative in this troubled province, responsible for maintaining order, collecting taxes, and administering justice. What's remarkable is that unlike many figures from ancient history, we have solid evidence that Pilate existed. In 1961, archaeologists discovered what's now called the Pilate Stone in Caesarea Maritima, a limestone block with his name inscribed on it. This archaeological find confirms what ancient writers like Josephus and Tacitus told us: Pilate was a real historical figure who governed Judea during the time of Jesus. The Roman historian Tacitus mentions him in connection with Christ's execution, writing, "Christus suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of our procurators, Pontius Pilate." If you're finding this historical context valuable, take a second to hit that like button. It really helps the channel reach more history enthusiasts like yourself. What we know with reasonable certainty is that Pilate's career ended in disgrace. According to Josephus, Pilate was ordered back to Rome around 36 CE after harshly suppressing a Samaritan religious gathering at Mount Gerizim. The Samaritans appealed to Vitellius, the governor of Syria and Pilate's superior, who ordered Pilate to return to Rome to answer for his actions before Emperor Tiberius. But here's where the story gets complicated. By the time Pilate would have reached Rome, Tiberius had died, and Caligula had become emperor. What happened next? The historical record goes silent. This gap in our knowledge has allowed various traditions about Pilate's fate to flourish. This is where things get really interesting. In the absence of definitive historical records, several competing traditions emerged about how Pilate died. Let's explore these fascinating accounts. Perhaps the most widely circulated account comes from the early Christian historian Eusebius, who wrote in the 4th century. According to Eusebius, who cites earlier Greek historians, Pilate fell into such misfortune under Emperor Caligula that he was forced to become his own executioner and punish himself with his own hand. In other words, he committed suicide. This story gained traction and was elaborated upon in later traditions. Some accounts specify that Pilate killed himself while in exile in Gaul, modern-day France. The Greek historian Malalas adds the detail that this happened specifically in Vienna Allabrogum, today's Vienne in southeastern France. Why would a former Roman official choose suicide? In Roman culture, suicide could be seen as an honorable way out of disgrace. If Pilate had fallen from imperial favor, facing execution or severe punishment, taking his own life might have seemed preferable according to Roman values of the time. Other traditions suggest that Pilate was executed on orders from the emperor. According to this version, when Pilate arrived in Rome to answer for his conduct in Judea, Caligula, known for his erratic and often cruel behavior, had him put to death. This account appears in some later Christian writings, suggesting that Pilate faced imperial justice for his role in Jesus' death. However, it's worth noting that these accounts emerge centuries after the events they describe, making them less reliable as historical sources. Here's where things take a truly unexpected turn. In the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, both Pontius Pilate and his wife Claudia Procula are venerated as saints. According to this tradition, Pilate became a Christian after witnessing the events surrounding Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection. This tradition holds that Pilate tried to convince Emperor Tiberius of Jesus' divinity and was martyred for his newfound faith. The Ethiopian Church celebrates Saint Pilate on June 25, and some ancient Coptic texts even refer to him as a martyr. While this account seems far-fetched to most historians, it shows how radically Pilate's image was transformed in some Christian traditions, from the man who condemned Jesus to a convert who died for the very faith he had once persecuted. If you're enjoying this exploration of historical and religious traditions, please consider subscribing to Wisdom Files for more content like this. Your support allows us to continue uncovering these fascinating historical mysteries. One of the strangest legends about Pilate concerns what happened to his remains. According to medieval Swiss folklore, after Pilate committed suicide, his body was thrown into the Tiber River in Rome. But the river, polluted by his evil spirit, rejected the corpse, causing storms and floods. The body was then supposedly taken to Vienne in France and thrown into the Rhone River, with similar results. Finally, it was transported to a remote mountain lake in what is now Switzerland. This body of water, on Mount Pilatus near Lucerne, became known as Pilate's Pond. Local legends claimed that Pilate's ghost would rise from the lake each year on Good Friday, washing his hands in a ritual reenactment of his most famous gesture. The legend was so powerful that for centuries, authorities forbade people from visiting the lake on Good Friday for fear of triggering storms and bad weather. So what's the truth about Pilate's death? As historians, we have to acknowledge the limitations of our sources. The earliest accounts of his suicide come centuries after his lifetime, and many of the more colorful stories about his demise emerged in medieval times, far removed from the events they describe. What seems most plausible based on the available evidence is that Pilate was indeed recalled to Rome around 36 CE after mishandling the Samaritan incident. By the time he arrived, Tiberius was dead and Caligula was emperor. Whether he was executed, committed suicide, or perhaps even lived out his days in obscurity, we simply don't know for certain. The transformation of Pilate in religious tradition is fascinating from a historical perspective. In the canonical Gospels, Pilate is portrayed somewhat ambiguously, reluctant to condemn Jesus but ultimately yielding to pressure. Later Christian tradition increasingly shifted blame away from Pilate and onto the Jewish authorities, a troubling development that contributed to centuries of anti-Semitism. By medieval times, some Christian traditions had completely rehabilitated Pilate, transforming him from a Roman official who ordered an execution into a convert and even a martyr. This evolution tells us more about the theological needs and concerns of later Christians than it does about the historical Pilate. While archaeology hasn't resolved the mystery of Pilate's death, it has given us fascinating glimpses into his life. The Pilate stone I mentioned earlier provides concrete evidence of his position in Judea. Archaeology has also revealed aspects of Caesarea Maritima, the coastal city where Pilate likely had his headquarters. In 2018, archaeologists found a 2,000-year-old ring at Herodium, an ancient fortress near Jerusalem, bearing the inscription of Pilatus. While we can't be certain it belonged to Pontius Pilate himself, it's another tantalizing connection to this historical figure. To understand Pilate's possible fate, it helps to consider the broader context of his career and the dangerous politics of imperial Rome. Pilate served under Emperor Tiberius, who spent much of his reign in seclusion on the island of Capri, leaving Rome in the hands of the ambitious Sejanus, commander of the Praetorian Guard. Some historians believe Pilate may have been appointed to his position through Sejanus's influence. When Sejanus fell from power and was executed in 31 CE, many of his associates suffered similar fates. If Pilate was indeed connected to Sejanus, he would have been in a precarious position in the years that followed.
This political context might explain Pilate's eventual recall to Rome.
The new Emperor Caligula, eager to establish his authority, might well have dealt harshly with an official associated with the previous regime, especially one with a record of causing problems in a sensitive province. Regardless of how Pilate died, his legacy is secured by his role in one of history's most significant events. His name appears in the Apostles' Creed, recited by millions of Christians worldwide, suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, died and was buried. Few historical figures from antiquity are remembered so widely, yet known so little. Pilate exists at that fascinating intersection of verified history and legend, a real person whose actions are documented, yet whose full story remains tantalizingly incomplete. Before we wrap up, if you've made it this far, you're clearly passionate about historical exploration. Take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Wisdom Files for more content that delves into the mysteries of our religious and historical past. So there you have it, the mysterious fate of Pontius Pilate. From suicide and disgrace to Christian martyrdom, from execution to a restless spirit haunting a Swiss mountain lake, the traditions about Pilate's end are as varied as they are fascinating. What we can say with confidence is that Pilate was recalled from his position around 36 CE, likely in disgrace. Beyond that, the historical record falls silent, and we enter the realm of legend and tradition.
Perhaps that's fitting. Pilate's most famous question, "What is truth?" remains ironically applicable to the search for the truth about his own fate. Like many figures from ancient history, he remains partially hidden in the shadows of time, inviting us to piece together fragments of evidence and tradition to form an incomplete but fascinating picture. Thanks for joining me for this historical journey on Wisdom Files. If you enjoyed this exploration of ancient mysteries, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what historical enigma you'd like me to tackle next. Until next time.